Also, in addition to being right, is made it a little formulaic, so that you can look at interiors of this era and recognize them for what they are, because they've got all the same thing. They're all very cookie cutter. The Four Seasons restaurant, William Pullman, now Johnson is credited for the restaurant. Neves didn't go into the interiors, but William Pullman designed the materials and had the idea. Has anybody been in the Four Seasons or know of it? It's a very expensive restaurant. It's a landmark, and it's superb. It's very high-level American food. I mean, not particularly French. A very high-level American. The pool in the middle was an idea, not the food. I don't know, maybe it's a foot deep. It was a decorative element, and the restaurant's decor changes with the seasons. We're looking at summer and fall. The decor, and I mean, not all of them. I don't think all of the the tablecloths are white. This is just a faded slide. It's very famous also because of the tiny little metal balls. They're not like, if it were a string of pearls on stainless steel. And these are what form curtains on the walls, which was another very revolutionary idea. Very dramatic rather than conventional draperies. The sound absorbing, or the lack of sound absorbing, that is compensated with the ceiling and very, very rich carpeting on the floors. But anyway, Philip, I wanted you to know William Pullman's name. He was an important interior designer from mid-century really through the 80s. He was one of the leading designers in America, and he had a column that was running in hundreds of newspapers around the country. Okay, Wallace Harrison did the Time Life building. Harrison was on the original Rockefeller Center committee. Time Life building on the west side of 6th Avenue was the first building to the west of Rockefeller Center. It was acknowledging by then Rockefeller Center was such a big success that they wanted to build more buildings and make more money on the leases. The Ford Foundation on Way East 42nd Street by Roche Dicalou. These were escapees, or broke off from Skidmore. A very elegant building, small, with an atrium inside, which was rather unusual for the time. The Hancock Center, I put the tallest outside of New York when it was built. Now, as of today, maybe next week will be different, or as of yesterday, the 7 World Trade Center is the tallest building in America. Because of the spire that the radio spire that was argued. Now, you should know this just for general interest. There are different measures of tall. There's how many floors. There is how many actual feet. The floors and the feet may not be the same depending on the height of the floors. Then there's the height of the spire, and the argument was that, and it wasn't the Hancock Center actually. The Hancock Center was dwarfed by the Sears Tower in Chicago, which is now the Willis Tower. So I guess Willis is the company that was the largest tenant. And it was judged by whatever board judged the largest building that the Willis Tower radial area was an area, and that the 7 Trade Center aerial is part of the architecture. So it gets a little bit silly. But that 1776 height is a bit of small information you need to know. It's now the highest in the country. Now we see here a building that tapers a bit. So it's varying from the international style a little bit, and it has structural elements on the outside as decorative elements as well. Organic or biomorphic architecture was going on at the same time. Organic being built from the land, or biomorphic shapes, which are like the shapes, egg shapes, shapes that are not rectilinear. I'm putting this in it because remember Frank Lloyd Wright was talking about organic as being part of the landscape, or how it's being built into the landscape. I showed you Fulham Water before. I don't know if I mentioned, did I talk about how it was built, or why it was built on the side of the cliff? Okay, so we see one of the views that made it famous. Bear Run Pennsylvania is middle of nowhere. Had it not been photographed and published all around the world, it would not have been famous, but this really revived Wright's career. Remember, Philip Johnson thought he was a has-been. After this, he got a couple of major jobs, including Johnson Wax Company in the Midwest, which I didn't show you, and the Guggenheim Museum. So here are two more shots just to show you how elements of this were really part of the landscape. And another shot of the interior. This is different from the one I showed you earlier, but you see the rocks really growing out of the floor. And here, upstairs rooms to show you, he thought the bedroom just had to be tiny because you weren't going to spend your time there. And the Guggenheim, which here is a great example. I can't remember if this building is down, but you see even with more of the modern buildings up here, you see how anachronistic this looks on Fifth Avenue. And the interior. Have any of you not been, has anybody not been to the Guggenheim? You ought to go, because it's an interesting experience only to see what the building is like. You will either love or hate it. It's interestingly designed. I don't know if this was Wright's idea, but when you go to an exhibit there, the easy way is to take the elevator up to the top floor and go down. You're not supposed to, though. The exhibitions are all set up so that you enter from here and you go up the ramp uphill. Now, it's not a sharp uphill, but it's easier going downhill. The difficult thing about this, and it's something to think about as designers, is do you design a museum as a building, or do you design a museum as a venue for art, which is sort of different. Does the art come first? Here, sort of the building comes first, except for the one exhibition, it's not the only one I haven't seen, but one major exhibition I haven't seen was an exhibition a few years ago of motorcycles. And people told me a BMW sponsored it, and it was historic motorcycles, not just BMW. Did you go? Okay. People who went